Yo, yo.
Hello, VeeFam. Welcome back to another very special episode of the VeeFam Sessions. Super excited for this one. I'm here with the one, the only Mr. David Rock, also known as DRock. David, how are you?
I'm great, bro. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you reaching out.
Awesome. I lost you there for a sec. So awesome to have you. For the very, very small portion of people listening that may not know you, you are the executive creative director for Gary Vaynerchuk. Obviously, you've had a journey there, but let's go take it all the way to the beginning. Can you give us a 55-second quick cliff note of who David Rock is before the name GaryVee even entered your universe?
Yeah, I mean, hey everyone. Thank you all for just tuning in and all that stuff. I appreciate it. And honestly, as my role, I know officially my role is creative director for Gary, but things have shifted a little bit in the past, and so now working on mostly the VeeFriends stuff. I just want to say that. But before Gary, 2014, so 2013, about 8-9 years ago, I was a freelancer as a videographer, editor, producer out in New York City. Worked for myself, and my buddy and I were doing a podcast, and it's called the Launching Creative Podcast. And we interviewed a ton of entrepreneurs and businessmen and all this stuff. And one day my buddy was like, hey, you guys have to do there's this guy talking at Columbia University. It's a free talk. Let's go. And that's kind of when I saw Gary for the first time. But yeah, honestly, just a grinder, a kid that came from Pennsylvania, came to New York, relocated because I was following my careers and passions, and then, got into a car crash in Pennsylvania. So I was like, you know what, let me go move to New York, because that's where I've always wanted to go. My ex at the time lived here, so I was like, you know what, it just made all the sense in the world. And then moved to New York to follow my dreams and hopes of becoming a film director. And quickly got onto a lot of movie sets, TV shows, got the coffee, held the wires, that whole thing.
Sure.
Quickly started to realize I didn't want to do that stuff. I was much more of I don't want to climb the ladder. I kind of want to just go make stuff. So I decided I'm not going to pursue the professional film and TV route that way, but I would go and just become a freelance videographer, editor, and that's kind of what happened before I met Gary.
Amazing. And I'm trying to get the most of this time, so I've done my homework, and you've told this story a few times, so I think it's amazing. But can you? A lot of people know that you were persistent in emailing Gary, but
yes.
Do you mind telling us the serendipitous story of the subway taxi that kind of just changed your whole trajectory of your career and life?
Yeah, so I mean, listen, I love telling this story, and it's fun because over the years I've actually started to fill in the gaps a little bit. So back when I wasn't doing that podcast with my buddy Nick, he was like, hey, this guy is talking on stage at Columbia University. Let's go listen to him. And I was like, fine, it's a free event. Let's go. So we went. And I keep saying free event because, yes, I was broke. We were all, I was just trying to survive. I was living paycheck by paycheck, and I was not working for a job at all. It was all freelance work. So I was really trying to figure it out by myself. And so I did. I went to Columbia that night with him, and we went and heard this guy talk. He walked out. He had Nikes on, jeans, and a hoodie. I'm like, yo, I fuck with that guy's energy. I wasn't big into corporate America or big suits and all that stuff. So I was like, yo, I'm drawn to that. It was more hip hop, more cool guy, and I just liked his energy. That night I went home, watched everything he had on YouTube. I didn't know about the wine library side of his career, so when I first started watching Gary on YouTube, it was 2014, so he had a bunch of keynotes, and this guy Nate and even Andy, who now runs VeeFriends, all held a cell phone video up, and Gary would rant to the camera once in a while about what he saw trends were coming. But I watched as much as I possibly could that night, and I sent him an email. I was like, hey, I'm a video producer. I just saw you talk tonight. You did a great job. Would love to offer you a free video because my goal was to, the theme of the talk that night was jab, 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 right hook, which is the title of this book. And it's all about give, 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 and ask. And I was always about I always did free work or pro bono work in order to just build my portfolio or get my name out there or get more experience or learn how to do business in the real world. So I quickly sent that email, sent it, didn't hear back from him. And honestly, I want people to hear that part again because I get emails and DMs every single day. And I wish that people would be persistent. I wish that people would not just give up. I will say that there's a boundary to reaching out and being persistent. You gotta be respectful. You gotta be coming with taste. You gotta have something to offer, whether it be your time or a skill or a service or something that the other person might need. So there's that. But then I emailed him again, probably 2 or 3 weeks later, just because I knew how busy the man was. No response. And then I had tweeted him a couple of times, and I was like, okay, whatever. This guy is busy. It doesn't matter. Life is life. So one day, fast forward another month or two later, there's pouring rain in Manhattan. I lived in Queens at the time, and I was broke, but I had just made I was about to make the most money I'd ever made on a freelance job. It was 4 hours, and I made $500. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. And so, pouring rain, I get everything. I'm ghetto. I grab all my gear, tripod, camera, lighting, everything. I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I'm walking through the subways, and I'm miserable. I'm getting out of the train. I'm getting poured on. And then I go do my job. Turns out it goes very smooth, very easy day, nothing complicated. But I had enough. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a cab. And this is probably the second time I had ever taken a cab in New York. And the first time my ex's aunt had taken one so we could go to a Broadway show that she had paid for. So I was like, oh, this is this is a very fancy thing. And so I get into the cab. And I'm riding across the Queensboro Bridge, which is a bridge that connects Manhattan into Queens. And why I love this story so much is in 2014, New York City subways had no cell phone service. There was once in a while, maybe 42nd Street, maybe 59th Street, Queensboro Bridge, maybe 14th Street had Wi-Fi because it was close enough to the ground, but it was also they had more power there than the new big central spots in New York. So we're all on our phone, but you can't do anything. So you're mostly either reading a book or whatever. But because I was in the cab that day on the Queensboro Bridge, I had service, and I was on Twitter, and Gary was tweeting, and he was like, "Hey, there's this app called Kick, which right now is a hookup app for a lot of perverts on the internet, but." Kick was a chatting app that just like Gary would say, hey, I'm trying out Snapchat, or I'm trying out Instagram, or I'm trying out TikTok, or I'm trying out Facebook, just another app. And I happened to have service in the moment, downloaded it immediately once I saw the tweet, probably 2 minutes into him tweeting it, made a username, sent him a message, and within 30 seconds to a minute, he responded. And I said, my first message was hey, I'm in New York City. I will make you a free video. I've emailed you before. Here's a 1-minute video. Because I knew his time was so busy. So I didn't want to send him my whole reel or everything. I just sent him a 1-minute motivational boxing video that I had made. And I was like, I want to do something like this for you. And he quickly responded and said, hey, I live in New York. And I was like, yeah, I know, but you're always busy. Don't you want to I know you're busy, so let me know when you're free, and I would love to do this. And he's like, cool, I'm going to connect you with my admin, and let's do it. And so I was like, wow, that's wild. And so I often say with that is hard work. I put in the work, I tastefully reached out, I kept being persistent, I looked at all the opportunities that I could offer him in different pockets, different modes of communication, and I just happened to, the serendipity hard work and serendipity is what I often say. And so I feel like I put myself in the position to be available for him because I put in the work and the effort. But I also definitely wildly agree that the best day I had ever had financially, it was pouring rain, so I was extra grumpy. But I was like, fuck it, I'm going to just take a cab. Those decisions, that serendipity, I can't make up. I can't manufacture that. And so I often say like, hard work and serendipity is how I feel like I achieve success. And so we set up a day. I go follow him around for a day. He didn't want to wear a mic. He didn't want to, like, he didn't know me. I wasn't allowed in most of the meetings. I was allowed in one or two of them. And then we had gone upstate to a talk that he had to give. And I'm sitting back and looking at the footage, and the audio is shit. And there's no story. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? I was like up until like 4 a.m. the first night. Like, fuck, I have nothing here. And then I went back another night, like probably 2 or 3 nights later, and I just had to like clear my head. And I went back, and how Gary records his article, like how he writes his articles, is he records audio into like a phone.
Right.
I happened to be filming this moment in the back of the car on the way upstate to his talk, and this article was called "The Clouds and Dirt." You know, his theory of like you gotta like dream big, you gotta have big ambitions and big goals, and you gotta work hard, and you gotta be in the dirt. So the clouds and the dirt. And so I immediately gravitated towards, wait a minute, I could use this and kind of build something out of it. And so I used that little voiceover and a bunch of like little moments from the day and turned it into a 3.5 minute short film. He loved it, and he started like back in the day, like he had nothing like this. Like there was no one that like followed him around and like interviews or keynotes or there was nothing like this. So he was like, "Yo, this is so cool." He started tweeting it out to like everybody on Twitter. Like he would individually go through on Twitter and just tweet it out to like, "Hey, oh, I forgot. God, there's like 4 names I want to call out right now, and I can't think of them. Man,
it's all good. I mean, we're talking years ago right now.
Yeah, but like eventually, like I copied and pasted every single person, probably like 40, 50 people, and I found their emails online, DM'd them on Twitter, like, hey, I can do stuff like this for you. Ted Rubin was one of them. He was a big podcaster and influencer at the time, and there's another guy I really want to call out right now. But anyways, emailed them all, got 4 or 5 gigs off of it. Was like, yo, let's go. Like I got what I wanted. Portfolio piece from Gary, and then like a few other random jobs that were gonna pay me. I was like, yes, let's go. A month later, I'm just like saying like feeling grateful, so I sent Gary an email because I got these like jobs off of this. I appreciate the time. If you ever need anything, let me know. And then a month later after that, I'm in the middle of a 72-hour film festival where you get the concept and you got to write and film and edit everything within 72 hours. I mean, now I feel like I could kind of crush that, you know, considering my turnaround times are pretty insane. But then it was like, what? I got to write, film, edit, and like do everything in 72 hours? This is insane. So I'm like on hour 56 of being up all night for like 2 days. It's probably like 10:30 at night. My buddies and I are sitting down at the edit, and we're like, "What are we gonna do? This is crazy." And I hear ding, 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 ding on my phone because email wasn't as busy back then. And it's Gary, and he says, "So what do you want to do? Do you want to come work for me?" And I was like, like I don't want a job. Like I wasn't wanting a job. My ex-girlfriend's aunt at the time though was like, you need to go to business school. Like you need to go back to college. I only had an associate's degree, and like here I am, a struggling artist dating her niece, and she's like, no, you have to go to business school. I'm like, yo, this guy Gary offered me a job, and she's like, I don't know who Gary is. No one in the marketing world does. No one cares about this guy Gary. Like fuck this guy. And for some reason, I just wanted to stick it to her.
This is so meta.
Yeah, and I was just like, yo, like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take the job. So I took the job. I was like, fuck it. I'm not gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go learn business by watching this guy and like learn from him and like learn how to navigate it. And so then I got into Vayner and I started editing all these videos, like keynotes and like random like one-off like videos that you wanted to do about Snapchat or Twitter and how to use it properly. And then and then one day he was like, "Yo, grab your camera. We're gonna go sit in this room. We're gonna start a show." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I want to do a Q&A show where I like ask, like
Ask
have
Gary
people
V.
ask me questions and I answer them. And so then we started the Ask Gary V show. Probably 4 months into that, we're doing like one episode a week. Then it becomes 2 to 3, and like we're cranking them out. I'm like cutting up every individual answer and like putting it out on the internet, and help DMing people who like ask the question. Like, hey, this guy Gary on Twitter randomly answered your question. If you want to like watch the episode, here's the link. So I did that for a while, and that's kind of how I got the job and like the beginning steps of my career.
That's on so many levels. There's so many amazing things there, but there's so many. It's just the irony of all the messaging that gets put out through the content. There's so much of that in there. Serendipity meets hard work. Being prepared. You were prepared with that 1 minute video, and just continuing to show up. I heard. I want to get into your years at Vayner before we hit VeeFriends land, but I heard there was a funny interaction on day one. I mean, not only didn't you have
Yeah.
any good footage, and that's so funny that he wouldn't wear a mic in those days, but wasn't there a funny like one-liner or
Yeah,
situation on day one? Like everyone has that signature terrible story.
Within
You cut right to the chase. I feel like everyone has that horror story from their first day of work, but this one I think is extra poetic.
Yeah, and it's funny. It affected my career probably for 4 years working with him. So, for context for everybody listening, day one, I had never met the guy. I said thank you at the keynote. Like, hey, dude, thank you, good talk.
Yeah.
And then he was outside one moment, like, yo, see ya, thank you, whatever, bye, dude. And then got the email. We got connected with the assistant. I then met up with this guy, Stunwin, who is Gary's Steve Unwin. We called him Stunwin. Gary takes a lot of first initials and last names and makes him a name. Weird. So then met this guy, Stunwin. He was Gary's writer at the time. And we met at like a coffee shop up in Columbus Circle. We're like, hey, Gary is finishing up a morning meeting. We'll meet up with him in like 10 minutes. And we talk, we get to know each other. And then he's like, okay, cool, Gary's leaving, we gotta go. We're walking, Gary, we see him come out of the breakfast meeting and then walk down the block the opposite direction of where we're going. And we're like, fuck, we gotta go like run after him. So we're running after him. And he like kind of like was on a call, I think, the first like 2 minutes of like me being next to him, and we all just hopped in this cab, and I'm sitting up front, Snunman's in the back, Gary's in the back, and then he's like on the call still, and he's like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I pick up my camera? Like, am I filming? I just pick up my camera.
It's your first day, yeah.
Yeah, I start filming, and then like I put it down because it's like awkward. I realized, oh wait, he's talking to his mom. Like, this is like personal. I don't know him, doesn't know me. He's talking about like something in the family. And then at the end, he's like, hey, Mom, love you. I hope you have a great day. And then he hangs up. And then I pick up my camera again. I turn back. And I say, hey, Gary, you mind just saying that line again? Like, hey, Mom, love you. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, never ask me to repeat anything ever again. And I, like, the production person in me was just like, yeah, what did I do? What did I do? Like, I should have just been filming. I don't know. I just didn't know what to do. But it, like, just stunned me. And why I say that affected me for, like, 4 or 5 years is, like, I would never ask him to repeat anything for, like, 4 years. Because it was just, like, that one moment ingrained in my head was, like, there's no way I'm asking him to do something over. There's no way.
Of course, yeah.
But, yeah, that was kind of a funny story.
That had to be so traumatic. Does he remember that story?
What?
Does he remember that happening?
No, but I will say that the one thing that he reminded me of that I was like, wow, this is cool, is like, he told me that he had only been on kick twice for like 5 minutes. So like
Wow.
the chatting app that was like the first time that he had ever really been on it, and maybe one more time, like 4 more minutes, and then he's like, "This is not going anywhere," and then he deleted the app. So that's like another part of the serendipitous of like, wait a minute, he literally almost didn't have anybody. Like he almost, he would have never saw that message, you know?
Of course. Amazing. So cool and so meta. So
So meta.
9. It's been 8.5, 9 years now. You've been with him at Vayner. You started out just a guy with a camera, and you've kind of morphed into not only a well-known figure in all of the content, Ask Gary V, DailyVee, that not only the person behind the camera and helping make it happen, but actually in it, and you became DRock to the point where like now other people have a DRock, like you're a household noun. Was there like a moment?
Proud of me. You're like, wow, you're a noun? You're a high school boy, and now you're a noun? What the fuck is this? She didn't curse.
But like for real, like, because that wasn't a thing. I know, like, I think it was your idea to start DailyVee. Am I right?
So yeah, there was a few things that happened. It was, Gary and I were like crushing Ask Gary V and the team. We were all doing our work, and I had gotten bored. I was like, I'm more of a creative videographer. This is like talking head Gary, but we were all having fun, so it was like still exciting. But like creatively, I was like, I need to do something else. And so I was like, yo, remember I did those short films a while ago, like that for you, like how I got the job. I want to do another one. And he's like, yeah, let's do that. So I would use a lot of the narration from Ask Gary V if I heard a good quote or a good line or whatever. And I started to like mash up all these like different, hey, take stuff from keynotes, take stuff from Ask Gary V, and do mashups. And they were exciting and they were fun, but they visually were boring. And I'm more of a cinematic dude, so I'm like, hey, can I follow you around for a few days and just get some B-roll? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, if that's what you want to do, you creative weirdo, whatever. So then I followed him around for like 2 days, and I was just capturing B-roll. He didn't have any mic, but at some point I was like, wait a minute, dude, your life is like kind of fascinating. And he was like, yeah, you think so? I'm like, yeah, it is. And like, I don't know, this should be fun. We should do this more. He's like, I don't know. Like, let's just stick to Ask Gary Vee and the keynotes and stuff. And then, probably a month or two later, he started being like, yo, we need to figure out YouTube. We need to figure out our YouTube strategy. And I was like, okay. And he was like, go find some people on YouTube that are doing it right, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay. Like, what do you mean, like, doing it right? But then eventually just kept stumbling across this guy called Casey Neistat, who had all these like really cool stories that he started to do in films. But then, literally, probably within a month of me finding him, he also started to do a daily vlog. So every day he would start to put out these vlogs. And this is back in 2015. So it's been a year kind of since I was working with Gary. And so then every day he started putting out these vlogs. And I'm like, Gary, we should vlog. I think this is like a cool story medium. And he's like, there's no way I'm vlogging. There's no way I like want that. It's not happening. So then, for more context, throughout that year of me filming Ask Gary Vee and all this stuff, Gary would wake up at like 5 a.m. to play basketball with his boys at the 14th Street Y MCA down in Manhattan here. And he would ask me to come all the way from Queens, so I had to wake up at 4, be there at 5:30 to start filming, and I would film the basketball games. And we'd pick out little random moments and it'd be fun for social and people, like we'd talk about it during Ask Gary Vee and people would love it. One day, I got so fed up and bored, I'm like, yo, I'm going to just follow you around all day. And he's like, and I just did it. He didn't say no. I just like showed up in his next meeting at 8 a.m. And if you watch the footage on DailyVee 1, you can see a moment where I'm across the street and Gary's across the street, and he looks up, and then he looks back up again. He's like, wait, like you're here? And then he smiles. Like he kind of just like, oh, what are you
That's
doing here?
amazing.
And it's like at his 8 a.m. meeting after the basketball game. And then I filmed all day. And he let me, and he started interacting with the camera. And he was like, yo, like, it's funny. I put out a video the other day on my Instagram where I interviewed this guy, Tim, who's doing TikToks every day on TikTok. But I had dinner with him, and I made a little video. and Gary was like, in the first DailyVee, he was like, yo, don't follow me around from behind because I hate my bald spot. And I was laughing at it so much of how much now we've filmed from that moment on.
Right.
Yeah, DailyVee,
That's
I
so
mean,
funny.
it was my idea, but then Gary, within the first one, it took me like a week and a half to get it done. And he was like, wait a minute, this is awesome. Like, we need to do this more. Only when I'm in New York, though, because, like, travel and all that, that's too expensive. The second episode I filmed, he loved it, and he's like, fuck, you need to come with me to Vegas, and like, just, you
Yeah.
need to come with me for the Ask Gary V book tour, and like, all this stuff. So it just started to quickly become, it wasn't just in New York, it was everywhere he was going, he wanted me to join him and start filming this man's life. And that's kind of how that began.
It's amazing, showing and documenting and not telling, portrayal of everything that he is. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look for that in DailyVee one, that moment.
Well,
I've watched early ones recently.
yeah, if you watch the video I did put up just now on my Instagram with Tim, you'll see it because I put it in there. That moment's in there. But yeah, it's funny.
And I love it. It's definitely early in, maybe in the first 3 or 4, when he's going to give the talk in New York and they don't let him in because he doesn't.
That's number one. That's number one.
Oh, that is one.
Yeah, no coach,
man.
no shoes, no coat, no shoes, no keynote.
Yes.
Yes, that was
amazing.
Very, well, that's what it was funny. Like, it was such a weird day too. Like, it was
perfect. Yeah, perfect day.
Moment, and it was like, yeah, this was meant to be. Like, I knew it as soon as I put that episode together. I was like, there's no way he's not gonna like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had Tyler on a couple months back,
Tyler Schmidt or Tyler Babin?
Tyler Schmidt.
Okay.
And I brought up DailyVee 57 when you guys are moving into Hudson Yards, or no, out. You're moving out and then getting prepared to go to Hudson Yards. And there's a cool moment there. So, and he's like, this is so funny because this is literally my favorite episode. Do you have a favorite episode of DailyVee?
There's a few. Favorite. Like, when I first saw it, it's DailyVee 14. It was just a weird day where, like, me and Gary's energy were finally synced, I think. I think that him and I finally realized, oh wait, this is a partnership and we're gonna do this. Like, this is like, we weren't doing them every day, we weren't doing them every week, it was just like whenever I could. And then, like, when we hit DailyVee 14, we're like, okay, this is now gonna be the rest of our lives, quote unquote. Like, we're gonna just do this hard. And it was just like one of my favorite edited episodes. But then I would say, like, London Calling was another one. London Calling was like the first time where Gary was popular on Twitter, and then he blew up during the tech boom, like working with all the entrepreneurs. And one day he had 1 million followers on Twitter when I met him. But everywhere else he had like 20,000 followers.
Yeah.
On YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, da. So then London Calling happened, and it was the first time that we had gotten real serious about Snapchat. And the world started to get serious about Snapchat, almost like the world is serious about TikTok right now. And Gary, like, puts out this random snap, and he's like, hey, you want to go to London meetup? Like, cool, like, come by, let's chat. We go out to dinner. We meet this kid, Elliot, who ends up coming to work for us, some 19-year-old, like, hustler kid. He worked on this page called Dunk, got into, like, 2 million followers. So, like, but we're, like, brothers and friends now, so that's, like, a fun moment. But then, like, we're all at dinner, and we keep getting these messages, like, yo, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people showing up in this park. And we're like, what do you mean? And, like, this is the first moment I think that Gary ever felt, like, famous, in a way. We go out, and we're walking, because the restaurant's walking distance, and there's just people, like, even running after Gary as we're walking. And we're all just like, what is happening? We get there, there's 400, 500 people outside in this park. And it is like 9 p.m. And we stayed until about 2:30. Gary talks to every single person.
Mm.
And like we filmed the whole thing. It's just one of my favorite moments because we had been building up audience for probably 2 years at that point, but I had not really seen a lot of them. I had seen we did like an Ask Gary V meetup in New York where we set it up. We had an event page. We had people know about it, come. We had a venue, all this stuff. Like Ask Gary V episode 100. But this was like Gary put out a random snap, and then 400 people were outside, and like we went deep, and he like gave some really good advice. We felt the energy. It was just like a moment that like I can't really describe, you know?
That's amazing.
And so that was like a really cool moment for me because it was fun to see the audience that we had built. I would say the only time I'd ever felt that again was VCon last year because it was the first time it wasn't 400 to 500. We had done a few meetups like Washington Square Park, a few other places, but it was the first time I was like, wow, that's right. These are all the people that we've made videos for over the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was like they're all in one space, and it was like I think 4,000. I can't remember how many people, but it was a lot of people, and I felt connected to every single person. And that was like a really cool moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell when you guys were on the floor because you just heard, like, you didn't even have to see it. Like, you just heard the stampede coming through at VCon.
Really did. Really did. It was a little worrisome.
Real quick, so just some little moments in time during the years pre VeeFriends before we get into it.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw something at you, and you just give me a memory, what you remember about these things that happened or have come up. So the first is workplace warriors. What do you remember about workplace warriors?
I remember
known as the VeeFriends before VeeFriends.
Yeah, I remember Gary and Andy and I and Tyler because he like loved all these like little tchotchkes. Had met this guy and he was gonna make toys for us. I think he's Big Shot Toys on Instagram right now, but he was gonna design these little like toys that we can sell for people's desks, almost like your gratitude gorilla right behind you, just to remind you of positive traits and energy. And like it's funny because like I always thought that like we were gonna build a business, and I always knew that Gary could do his own, and he was always like, I'm gonna buy nostalgia. I'm like, bro, you're so creative, make your own. And he never like understood. He never got that. He's like, no, nostalgia will play more. I'm gonna buy like Rice Krispies or Animal Crackers, make a movie out of that, and resurrect the brand, and then sell a fuck ton of things. And for some reason, I just knew that he could do it by himself. And I heard one moment that he wanted to build Walt Disney, and like that was my childhood dream. And so like when I heard that, I was like, oh, I'll be with you forever type thing. Like this is gonna be so. Workplace warriors were these little characters with positive affirmations for people to put on their desk, and it was just gonna be a fun project that we were gonna work on. And yeah, that's kind of the summary of it.
With that, you've been with him for 8 years, which is a long time to be working for the same guy. Yeah. Is the reason that you're still there with kind of what you just said, like you just kind of your vision's aligned and you kind of want the same things, or is there more to that?
Yeah, I'll say first and foremost, Gary is a great guy. So like first and foremost, like just love the dude. Like I think I'm obsessed with him and like just like brotherly love, mentor love, older brother love, friend love, boss love. Like I just have all these good warm feelings because like I don't know, I feel like I've been a part of his life and like he's clearly been a part of mine, but I've definitely seen a lot of his life, and so I've known a lot of. I don't know. I've just always had an ultimate respect for him. Never wanted anything from him, nothing like that. Just wanted to like do my best work, and he also gave me the freedom to create anything. Like he didn't like he might have said like no, I'm not really interested, but then like if I did it, he kind of like okay, cool, let's do more of it, And he wasn't rigid. He was a good boss and like a good a mentor, and like I just learned a lot from him. And like, you know, you got to remember, I was filming and editing every day, right? Something that he said.
That's
People who the reason why I can say I'm here is I was homeschooled. I was my whole life until I got to college, and you know, so I had a lot of time out on my computer. I was on YouTube all the time, and I was watching a bunch of like tutorials on how to edit and like all this stuff. But then I would always listen to these motivational videos, and I loved them because it was like positive affirmations. I was living in Pennsylvania. Like my family doesn't make any money. I didn't know what kind of direction I wanted in life. But then I started to become obsessed with the idea of video production. And there was this one video that Will Smith, a fan of Will Smith, had put out, and it was like the 9 Secrets of Success by Will Smith, and it was a mashup of like 9 different videos.
yeah, I know those
And I
videos. Yeah,
watched that video probably every day, probably until I got to college, and even in college, I loved it. So I related with it. Like he would say, like, "Hey, like I'm gonna outwork you. Like I'm gonna like get on the treadmill and I'll die before you beat me. Like I'll die on the treadmill." And, like just stuff like work ethic and like manifestation and like if you believe in it, you can do it. All that stuff. And I always said that like my life kind of like pivoted. Then I get. My mom and dad were also into very motivational things, but that was probably the first moment for myself where I was like, I can do this. I have the hunger, I have the desire to do something great. And so when I got to that point, when I was like, hey, like that video really changed my life, I was like, if I could do that once, like my favorite movies are like 7 Pounds, Pursuit of Happiness, Good Will Hunting,
Goodwill
those
Hunting,
like
yeah.
feel good, like E.T., like just motivational, good films, right? And so I always said like if I could make a movie like that that changed somebody's life, I could die a happy man. And honestly, up to, like March 23rd, 2023, I can say I can die my soul could die a happy man right now. Like if I died tonight, I would be very content with what I left on the world because I know I've made 10,000, if not more, of those videos. And I know that there's like, and that body of work is going to live on forever. Like, Will Smith didn't make that mashup. Some fan sat down and took 9 clips
Bingo.
of heat down impact from Will Smith's thing, put it together, and I watched that video, and it changed my life. And then I can say, I think I've done that quite a bit. And like, so now how I think about life is I'm playing with house money, and everything else I do for the rest of my life will just be gravy, right? Like
I
that's just like fun now. So
I
I
love
think
that.
that's why I loved him. Is like I think he gave me the platform. I gave him the platform. We built each other up in our own way. I'm excited for the future though. I'm not sure if forever's in the books anymore, just because I think that I'm pretty ambitious. I'm pretty like I want to like fly. I want to try to do stuff, and I don't know. We'll see. Life is full of ups and downs and questions, and you never know like what direction life can go. You know. So
Of course. And with that making an impact, like, you are someone that brings it every day, trying to give back, giving more than you take from the community, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, you're always asking what you can do for the community. And I've even, I don't know if you remember, I told you in Miami how like you putting out a tweet like, all right, who needs work, who's looking for work? Like I landed a gig from one of your posts. So like you're sending out all of the amazing ripples, and I love having these conversations with you guys, people that are close to him, because you just see the trickle effect that starts with the core circle around him, and then it just trickles out into the community, and now even more so with VeeFriends. But
well, on
you,
that because I think that it's a good perspective to talk about, right? Like too many people are like transactional. Too many people are like, if I give you this iPhone, you give me job.
mm,
If I give you this, like, if I pay you, deliver this work. If I da 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 da. And I'm not like that. I'm more like, let's just put karma points out in the world and see where they land. Because
Yep.
like, I don't know, they always say like that quote, like, shoot for the stars, shoot for the moon and land among the stars. And I always think it's the opposite. I'm like, the moon's too close. Like, the stars
Mm.
are further away. Like, I want to shoot for the
Mm.
stars and land somewhere in the galaxy, somewhere far, far away. And like, have that stuff like just work for you, you know? I don't know, I just feel like there's too many people are like, if I do this, I want this back, and if they don't see it back within like 4 months, they're like, what did I get out of this? And then it's like so like they need it. They need like instant gratification, and I feel like if you can delay your gratification of what you need from other people, or what you need, or what you expect of yourself, also, you can be in a much better place because you're not applying that pressure. And by the way, I am speaking from a man who literally every day right now is probably putting the most pressure I've ever put on myself ever. Now,
Mm.
um, but I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of like I'm just like I'm trying to figure out life right now, you know. So it's important because I think people because my whole thing is like do free work or do pro bono work, do like if Gary's like, hey, thank you for the 9 years, but like we got to go out of business and you don't have a job anymore. I'm like the first thing I would want to do is probably find any type of person I want to work for, call it Michael Rubin, call it Drake, call it Kanye, and find hours of footage online about them, put together a 30-minute documentary, and sit there for free and do this.
Yep.
And be like, and then try to get it to somebody near or close to that person and be like, I want to do this for you. Here, I made this for free. Imagine if I had the camera and I could ask you my own shit and we could actually storytell around. And that's how I think about opportunity. Like, I really do. There's just if there was one kid that wanted my job, one, and I've said this on many podcasts, I've said this.
I've heard you say this. I know exactly what you're about to say. Yep.
If one kid, if I was wanting a job and I saw Gary's content and I wanted a job, I would sit there and listen to hours of Gary. People are like, I would listen to hours of Gary's keynotes, put together a video, and send it for free, and it would be great because I would spend time and effort and energy, no pressure. People, they laugh. I've gotten comments or DMs like, why would I do that? I'm literally like have to sit there for hours of footage and like learn, like have to like edit and stuff. I'm like, God, what do you think I do every day? I have to sit down and still watch your hours of footage every day. Like it's not like easier once you're here. You still got to do work. And so
Right.
like people are so like they just want the opportunity without putting in the effort. You know?
Yeah, and we're seeing that lack of patience.
But yeah, by the way, sorry. If one kid put together a video right now that's 3 minutes long and it's a great little short film, and guys, there's so much content out there. If one kid, there was a guy that put together DailyVee 100, and I offered him a job because it was fucking epic. He didn't want a job; he just wanted to like build up portfolio and get recognition.
Right.
But he did it. He put together this episode. It was fire. It was before I even spoke about this. I have mentioned this hundreds of times. I have
got a job.
No
put in the work.
I have gotten nobody
Zero.
to do it. I've gotten one person, 2 or 3 people, but their skill was off. I will say that. Just the skill of editing and storytelling.
Gotcha.
Well, they tried, but not one person.
Man, I could jam on this all day. I want to ask one question before I'm going to pivot to VeeFriends.
Please.
So, and you said something.
You don't need to pivot to VeeFriends if you don't want to. Well, there's more you if you want.
Yeah, no, I could jam for hours. And there's so many different buckets that we could go to. You know, we could stay on the job hunting. I know, like you have your book. I was going to ask you that towards the end, but you said something that's been making me think. Like you've spent probably arguably more time with him than anyone in the last 10 years. So that's all of your waking work hours, but then you're like compounding it by having him in his ear constantly while you're editing. So like you've heard everything, like the greatest hits, like 400 trillion to one, ripping flowers out of
in hotels because I thought Gary told me to, but it was a dream I had at night, and I didn't decipher what was what. And I
Oh,
went
man.
on a trip, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, that I booked this flight off of a dream, I guess." Like,
That's
it's
so
also
funny.
gone that far, like too far.
That is wild. Where was I going with that? Oh, okay. So one of the things that Gary always says is like he wants, in a keynote or a talk or whatever, like if he can say, he says the same stuff because it's true, but if he can say it in a way that makes it click for that person in that moment, in that time,
100%.
like it's worth it. Is there one of the things that you, Garyisms, we'll call them, that you heard that like just kind of, even though you've heard it a million times because you're just around it and hearing it that time, like that it just hit differently for you that moment and just kind of like opened your lenses up big time?
Good question. By John Morgenstern. Have a great day. Great question. There's just so much, bro. There's so much. You know what it is? I won't say. How about this? I won't say there's one thing. Because I am fascinated by my own lack of my own indecisiveness. I'm fascinated by it because I feel like I'm a operator. I feel like I work hard. I feel like I feel like I'm pushing myself forward. So I'm fascinated by myself of like, fuck, man, it's really hard for you to make a decision. And like, you're really like concerned about making a decision on like big life decisions. And I'm like, I've edited hundreds of videos where it's like, you just gotta go. You just gotta like, you gotta take that step. You gotta just make the leap. And I think that I even made a short film. If you're having a hard time making a decision, watch this short film. And it's one of my favorites. How about this? I think that it's fascinating to watch Gary because he is what he is. He is all the way through, all the way through, all the way through. What you see on camera is what you get. Yes, there are moments where he is actually more engaged in real life because that's who he is. But he's like, that's who he is, and he's authentic all the way through to himself. I think that what I'm working on the next 10 years for myself, I'm 32, he's 46. The next 10 years, I want to be authentic to myself. And I want to be
I love that.
Genuinely like more decisive and more like I'm just gonna like make this decision and go. I'm very good at like lofting things up and seeing which sticks and then like going with that. I'm not great at you have two choices and you gotta pick one. And so I think for me, as I've kind of over the last 2 years have stepped away from Gary content and I've been more focused on a bunch of other projects. I worked on a people documentary, worked on a bunch of other just a ton of random stuff. And so then now I'm in the VeeFriends world a little bit. And I think like lately, I even filmed the DailyVee last Friday because it was my birthday. And like, I wanted to just film because it was my birthday. And I missed it and I like loved it. When I was filming, I was like, this is what I love. I love this. I love his energy. I love the storytelling of like what we made. It just brought back so many good feelings. And I think all of it was like, man, you really just need to continue to put yourself in a position where you're happy.
Right.
Everything else, it doesn't matter. So maybe that's the point. Maybe it's you really just gotta put yourself. If you're not happy, you gotta change your shit and like pivot and do some other shit. You know?
I couldn't agree more. I have lived it / I'm living it now. I love that.
And honestly, like now that I've cursed 9,000 times on this podcast, that's another thing for me personally too. Is like I don't want to do that. I want to not curse as much. Like I don't know. There's just like a lot of. I feel like I'm 32 and I feel like I'm growing into a man now, and I want to like just be mindful and conscious of like who that person is to other people. You know?
That's amazing.
It's not how
So,
the answer.
and I love it. It's your authentic answer, and that's all I'm asking for. So, VeeFriends. Before we get to VeeFriends, one of the most fascinating things is to me is the Malibu trip, because I know that's kind of where all of this started, and what this podcast is I am taking all these interviews and compiling them into an oral history of the early days of VeeFriends, and Malibu is such a huge chunk of that.
Yeah.
And I have to. I know you were there. Was the camera rolling the whole time?
The camera's rolling the whole time. I have 5 hard drives full of 2 cameras and 2 angles.
So, like, that's amazing. So, like, the ultimate access experience. Like, I don't want to bowl with him. I don't want to like play, whatever, like video games with him. I would love an access session where I could hang out with the team and just like watch footage from that. I think that's so cool. In a few years, where we can roll that out.
It's funny. I'm gonna start going through that stuff. Gary's asked me a few times to like go through the drives, so I feel like that might be some good content for you guys. I agree. I agree. It's fun.
Amazing. I don't want to get all of the, we won't get really down dirty with it, but just give me like, paint the picture. Like, you're there for 10 days. Like, did the word VeeFriends exist before that? Did it come up there? Like, talk to us.
Yeah. So I'll try to give you some alpha without giving you alpha. This was right after COVID. Like, this was like a year and a half after. Like, it was May 2021, I believe. Yeah, May 2021. And so,
May 2021 it dropped.
Yeah, so this is like March 2020.
Okay.
So this is a year into COVID. We had all not seen each other. I went over to Gary's house like a couple times here and there to film like the show Overrated, Underrated. We started at his apartment. We were recording. We were writing the new book for 12 and a half. So I went over there to film a lot of the writing sessions with Ragav and a few of the other people on the team to kind of like work on the book. But I hadn't really like hung out with Gary. Like, this was like the first time that we had all, me, Andy, Tyler, Phil, Gary's girlfriend Mona, who he's now engaged with. We had all showed up to this house, and a few weeks before, a few months before, in January, we get a picture, and it's Gary drew on an index card, patient pig. And another,
which he tweeted, I think.
Yeah, and I can't remember, and he's like something big or whatever he said. And I was like, yo, this is good. This is like what I think. I like that he's making up his own shit. Yes, Workplace Warrior would have been cool, but we were only gonna do like 9 toys. We didn't know the breadth of. So anyways, Gary goes into this saying, I'm gonna draw 10,000 different drawings. And so we're all like, bro, it's 8 days. You're not gonna draw 10,000. You would have how many seconds are in an hour? There's like 60 seconds in an hour, or 60 minutes in an hour, and how many hours per day? 24. I don't know that math, but that day, if you drew for 24 hours, you still wouldn't get like a great big number. And he wanted to do 10,000 in 10 days. So I think we were all just like, what the fuck is about to happen? Like, what's happening? And then, so we all fly to Malibu, and he's like, I'm going to draw these characters. And we get there, we start setting up paper, and he's like, I just want to draw all day. I'm like, okay. And so we set up camera, and he's like, yo, give me some positive characteristics. And then he would like look up a characteristic, and then you look up an animal, like animals that started with those letters, and then he just started like, okay, I think alert, ape, and then just like drew that. And what I was, the thing that I was most impressed with was how one take. I used to draw a lot. I used to sketch, doodle. I used to like make up characters, do all the shit when I was a kid. But my stuff, I'm very good at like if I look at something, I can make it look like that thing. Like exactly, I was like very good at like copying the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
What has impressed me about Gary, the most impressive thing, was he didn't pencil it. He didn't like sketch it before. He just literally took paper, Sharpie and drew, looking at like a few different animals, understanding the shapes, but then just drew like that gorilla right behind, that gratitude gorilla right behind you. That if you look in the first drawing, there was only that one drawing.
Mm.
He didn't draw it 9 times. I think there was like 5 characters he might have redrawn. But he just went straight up, and the characters had a personality. At least a lot of them did. Or like a distinctive style or look or feel. And so it was really like fascinating to watch that play out in front of my eyes. I think that was really cool.
That's amazing. And like little things like the Easter egg, like the 5s and a lot of the characters.
Oh, he loved
was that
stuff. He was like, yo, guys, this is what I did? What I did? What I did? Yeah, he loved that stuff. It was fun. And then like there was like a bunch of other like things that we were gonna have that like didn't make it. So like this whole like category of like didn't make it pile. There's a whole like there's just like a lot of like different directions that we were going, and we just had to figure it out. You know, it's really fun.
Was the notion of the black cat being the swoosh, being the brand, iconic brand logo.
That kind of happened immediately.
Right when he drew it.
Yeah, he saw it. He's like, I love this. Like, I love this.
This is it.
He's like, he couldn't get off of it. Like he was like, yo. And then what was funny is like he started drawing other like a bobcat or I think is it tapira cat or whatever. But he started drawing it in a similar shape. And he was like,
okay.
This is fascinating. Like I like this shape. I like this feel. I like how this is going. So I think that kind of was his like motive. Like it was just like really cool to kind of see. And he's like Gary is very he loves like the cursing and the jersey and the t-shirt and the jeans because he likes walking into business corporate meetings and he's the opposite of what people are doing. So I think the notion of a black cat being lucky or unlucky and him wanting to switch people's perspectives is just the meta of like who Gary is in general. Like he wants to say fuck your mom and like that be a good thing, not a bad thing. You know? And
100.
like
that makes so much sense.
You to like think in alternative ways. And so I think the very, 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 very lucky black cat is like a symbol of that, and I think it's the perfect one. If I were to look at the whole thing and like pick my own, would I pick that? No. But because it is who Gary is, and it made the most sense for him in that moment, and now it just played out to be like right, I really think it's like a very smart thing that he did with that. Like, he's a genius, you know? Like, he is so intuition driven, and he just follows his gut, and that is so powerful. Because we all get crippled by making decisions, or is this right, or is this wrong? Is this right? Could it be better? Da 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 da. The dude drew 256 characters and said, hey, I'm making an NFT project, and you need to see my drawings. And here I am like, yo, like, why don't we, like, hire an awesome 3D, like, guy and make them all cute and adorable? And honestly, like, I'm so glad he didn't do that because, like, the alpha, his drawing, it being him drawing it mattered. And it being him putting out his work that people made fun of mattered. Because when we do go build Walt Disney in 30, 40 years, when it actually is, and some kid is like, yo, I want to build that, the mom and dad can just point back to, you see your doodle little girl? Look at this guy, Gary. Fucking is a schlub on drawing. Right. And like you know what I mean? Like it was average work, some of it. And he built a huge company and built a big empire off of that. So like it gives hope, it gives like possibility, it gives a roadmap to how to build something, which is like super fun and like I can't wait to make the documentary when he buys the jets one day because like there's so many Easter eggs that he leaves along the way. And like it's really fun to like be on this side of the camera and like watch it. And yeah, that's what I'll say about the VeeFriends stuff.
Did you fall in love with the Harpic as soon as you saw it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I believe in originality, and again, if I was to build a Walt Disney, I'd want like original characters, and Harpic's the only original thing that hasn't ever existed, right? Like there's a wizard out there. There's like other. Once I saw it, you'll see on the footage. Once I get it out there, I was like, "Yo, this is it." And you're like, "You like it?" I'm like, "This is where that's your Harry Potter. That's your Lord of the Rings. That's what I felt like his Mickey Mouse is like where you can like really build an origin story of like not Mickey Mouse. That's like I don't know. They're just like I feel
the
like
original alpha character, the
yeah,
original.
the creative in me just wants to make the origin story of like the Harpic, and like you got to remember something, and this is like something for the whole VeeFriends community to remember because I know you guys, and I know you're like all like eager and happy and excited. When you watch Walt Disney's movies, you watch the trailer first, and then shortly after, probably 3 or 4 months later, the movie comes out. And then you see the movie, you see the character, and now you fall in love with the character. The powerful thing that we have going on with VeeFriends is the characters are out there now. And there's just 256 or 8 of them. There's so many different use cases that you can do with that. And there's so many ways the guy is going to be able to turn these into whatever he wants to turn them into that it's just going to take time. And anytime there was like an issue at Vayner or an issue with an employee or an issue with a client, Gary would always look at me and he'd be like, just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. And that's the same advice I like to give you and this entire community that like we need time to build and you need time to storytell. And when the movie does come out about any of these characters, you guys are going to be much more excited because it's happening, you know, it's cool. It's fun to be a part of. But the most important thing about the VeeFriends community is a lot of the holders are all aligned. They all want to accomplish something or do something or be a better person, right? That's why you're all here. And so like what I do with my networking posts on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn, like what I do with my like just content in general, like how can I help you, I would highly recommend the VeeFriends community do the same with each other and then help amplify the voice of VeeFriends because listen, you're the community. This is where all the magic stuff happens. Like talk to each other, meet each other, like help each other, work with each other, network with each other, build each other, have hard conversations, right? I remember meeting with you in Miami and like we talked a little bit and it was fun. It's like now here we are on the podcast. Now in 5 years I might run into you again. And it's gonna be just something else. A powerful story for me working with Gary was like here I am, a young videographer in the city, didn't have access to a lot of things. And then, like, all of a sudden, we started putting out Ask Gary Vee. And I would get DMs from, like, people who, like, worked at Sony or Canon or B&H and be like, hey, we're big fans. And, like, to me, that was, like, crazy. Like, things I love, like cameras and gear and equipment, things I couldn't afford. People were like, yo, we want to give you this stuff because of this. Or something that happened on One Ask Gary Vee years ago has now allowed someone to build a multi-million-dollar business for their family, and those kids are going to have a great life because of that. Like there's just so much you don't know what's going to happen with time. So keep putting out the good vibes, keep putting out the like positive traits, and keep like helping each other. I would say like that's all we have. That's our greatest responsibility here, is to help each other. You know.
Amazing. And you I think you answered my next question, which is what is tomorrow is 55 days to VCon. What would be your number one tip? And I think you just hit it.
Yeah,
Network, just talk to each other.
Yeah, because again, like everyone's like, oh, they want to see Gary, they want to see other people. Like that's cool, I get it. Like that's why you're there and everything. But like literally, the person right behind you in the line waiting to take the photo could just be your next best friend, or soulmate, or business partner, or you have one conversation and it shifts your perspective, either positive or to like a new idea, a new concept that goes on to be the thing that you do for the rest of your life. You know,
100%, 100%. I'm
I'm
looking
so
at.
excited for VCon. I'm dying to. I can't wait to see everybody there. It's just last year was so magical. It was so much fun. It was like everyone was just like I don't know, excited and happy. And I know there's a lot of issues that happen too. I know there's a lot of things in the background, but I think that's with any big event. You know.
Sure. And it
Uh,
was your first time doing it.
yeah.
I don't know if I I won't say how, but I got backstage on the last day. I introduced myself to you, talked to you for a bit, took a picture, and one thing that stood out that you said is like, yeah, we have a meeting tomorrow to go over to talk about VCon next year, like literally the next day after this event.
We were all dead.
And
We were all like, we were all,
and I was like,
we were all sitting
oh
outside. We were like,
man,
fuck.
I'm like, they're not messing around. But like, what, I'm not looking for alpha or, to pull back the curtain, but like, what are you looking forward to the community seeing in VCon 2?
I don't have anything, honestly.
It just to get
I'm
back.
not that dude. Like, I don't look forward to like events and stuff, so I'm like not that dude. I'm just excited to meet people. That's it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking. We've gone over. I feel like
I gotta go in 2 minutes.
I feel like I'm gonna let you go. I haven't scratched the surface. There's a good chance that you will hear from me within the next 5 years, before 5 years is up.
Well,
But
I hope so.
DRock,
I hope we
DRock,
podcast out there. We'll chat more.
I'm on behalf of everyone. We love, like, it's because of you that all of this messaging gets out in the beautiful way that it does.
And I'm sorry, I will never take that. All Team Gary.
Team
Sid is running everything right now, and I'm so proud of him. He started as an intern on our team. So cool to see him. Abby, Ragab, Dustin's crushing the video stuff now.
Dustin is crushing.
There's just so much that goes on behind it. I've never liked Hey because of you, so I want to throw it back on Team Gary and the VeeFriends fam and like everyone here at Vaynerchuk, and I appreciate you. Thank you though. And
there are a good amount of videos thanking you for all the impact that you have on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but fellow videographers, just FYI. But yeah, you are so appreciated. You're the best dude, and I really appreciate your time and being part of the VeeFam.
I love it. Thank you, bro. And by the way, what was like Tyler's like biggest takeaway? What was like kind of like the takeaway from that episode? I love that dude. Like he's so fascinating, and he can talk about any topic and go deep.
He's well rounded. His takeaway, well, it was a big moment, and for him, it was like symbolic of Vayner being this like little rinky dink like shop to like moving up to the big time. That, and from what I recall, I think I can't remember, his family was going away like Aspen or like somewhere crazy, and it was like a vacation that they still talk about, and they had all these amazing memories, and he skipped out because he didn't want to miss the move. So he remembers that like it just means a lot to him.
That's cool.
So I think that's what stood out.
That's cool. I've worked with these boys now like 8-9 years. It's crazy. Like Tyler and Andy, it's just been like so fun to watch. Like just so much fun,
And I've gotten all three of you on this podcast and have talked to you all in person, and you're just stand-up dudes. And like Gary, what you see is what you get. So thank you for that and everything you're putting out to the world.
Thank you, bro.
So I can't thank you enough, brother. And we will see you around.
Yes, sir.